Most people think they have a motivation problem. They don't. They have an attention problem. And that difference matters more than most people realize. Your brain is being quietly trained every single day, not by you, by every app, notification, short video, and scroll session you move through without thinking. Each one of those interactions is teaching your nervous system something very specific about what a normal baseline of stimulation feels like. And if you don't consciously take back control of that process, your focus, your discipline, and your mental clarity will keep eroding without you noticing. This is about how to rebuild your attention span, reduce dopamine overload, and retrain your brain to concentrate again using daily habits backed by real neuroscience. We are not trying to turn you into a productivity machine or strip enjoyment out of your life. We are doing something more specific and more lasting than that. We are retraining your nervous system to stop requiring constant stimulation just to feel normal. That is the actual problem this 30-day process is designed to solve. If you follow this consistently, you will think more clearly, work with less internal resistance, and regain genuine control over where your attention goes throughout each day. Before we get into the framework, you need to understand something most people miss. Your brain is not broken. It is adapting. It is adapting rationally to the environment you have been repeatedly feeding it. That distinction matters because it completely changes how you approach the solution. Research from Dr. Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine found that average attention span on a digital screen has declined significantly since the early 2000s. In 2004, people could sustain focused attention on a screen for around 150 seconds on average. That number has been falling steadily ever since. By 2012, that figure had already dropped to roughly 75 seconds. More recent data from 2024 places it at approximately 47 seconds. That is not random variation. That is a measurable consequence of how we have repeatedly trained our brains to interact with information over 2 decades. Modern apps, short-form videos, notifications, and infinite scrolling feeds are engineered to deliver rapid, unpredictable rewards. Every swipe and every tap sends a small chemical signal through your brain. Over time, your brain starts building expectations around that signal. It craves novelty before the current moment has resolved. It begins to treat stillness as a problem requiring immediate correction. From a neuroscience standpoint, dopamine is the neurotransmitter most central to this process. Dopamine is frequently misunderstood as simply the pleasure chemical. It is more accurate to describe it as the anticipation chemical. Dopamine drives you toward novelty and the pursuit of reward. It fires not just when you receive something satisfying, but before it, in the moment of seeking and expecting. Research published in the journal Cell Reports found that dopamine plays a fundamental role in the prefrontal cortex, generating sustained neural activity that directly supports your ability to pay attention. When your brain receives constant rapid dopamine hits from digital stimulation, it recalibrates its baseline sensitivity upward. Regular tasks then feel slow and uninteresting by comparison. Reading a book becomes hard to sustain. Sitting quietly without reaching for your phone feels almost unbearable. Deep focused work starts to feel like dragging yourself through resistance with every minute. A 2024 study published in the journal Life found that heavy short-form video consumers showed measurably reduced attention-related brain activity compared to lighter users. The researchers used electroencephalography to measure actual neural responses, not just self-reported distraction levels. The effect was visible in the brain itself. Another 2024 study found that people spending more time on short-form videos had reduced theta brainwave activity in the frontal cortex, which directly governs impulse control and sustained focus. This is not a metaphor or a loose association. It is measurable brain physiology changing in response to repeated behavioral patterns. The brain adapts to what you feed it most consistently. Your brain is not weak. It is responding logically to the environment you have placed it in repeatedly, and here is the part that changes everything. Anything trained into the brain through repeated experience can also be trained out of it through different repeated experience. That is neuroplasticity in practical terms. Neuroplasticity is the brain's documented capacity to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections based on what you consistently do and practice over time. Research confirms that the prefrontal cortex serves as the primary control center for concentration. This region manages executive functions including working memory, planning, and impulse control. When you improve your ability to focus through deliberate and consistent practice, you are directly strengthening the neural networks in that region of the brain. Over time, sustained attention builds stronger and more efficient neural pathways through this exact mechanism. The more you practice focusing, the more naturally it operates. Distraction is a practiced neural pathway. Focus is also a practiced neural pathway. The one that becomes your default is determined entirely by which one you repeat more often. Focus is not created through motivation or willpower alone. It is created through training. You do not become more focused by wanting it badly enough or by trying harder in individual moments. You become more focused by systematically reducing your brain's dependency on constant dopamine input and rebuilding the neural pathways for sustained attention through daily repetition. You are not fighting yourself anymore. You are retraining the system that has been running on autopilot for years without your conscious direction. The 30-day framework moves through 4 distinct stages: awareness, reduction, rebuilding, and reinforcement. Each stage has a specific purpose and prepares the ground for the one that follows. 30 days is not a magic number. It is roughly the time frame needed for repeated behavioral changes to begin producing noticeable shifts in how your brain defaults under ordinary conditions. The first stage covers days 1 through 7. It is called awareness. Your only responsibility during this stage is to observe your own behavior without attempting to change it yet. Notice how often you reach for your phone without consciously deciding to. Notice how quickly you abandon a task the moment it starts to feel slow or cognitively demanding. Notice how genuinely uncomfortable silence feels when you sit with it. Notice the exact moment your brain signals the urge to switch to something easier or more stimulating. Most distraction is automatic. Research on habitual behavior shows that unconscious impulses often fire several hundred milliseconds before your conscious awareness registers them. You are already reaching before you have consciously decided to reach. The behavior begins before the thought catches up with it. So during this first week, every time you interrupt your own focus or feel the pull toward stimulation, gently and neutrally label the experience. Impulse, distraction, dopamine habit. Nothing more than that. No self-criticism, no frustration, no judgment about what the pattern means about you. You are simply making visible what has been running invisibly in the background for years. This matters more than it seems. Awareness interrupts automaticity. Once you can clearly observe a pattern as it happens, you have already reduced its power over your behavior. You move from being controlled by an impulse to simply watching one pass through. That shift in relationship to the habit is where change begins. The second stage runs from days 8 through 14. This is the reduction phase. Now that you can see your triggers clearly, you begin gradually reducing unnecessary stimulation. The word gradually is important here. Most people fail at this stage because they attempt dramatic all-or-nothing approaches. They delete every app, eliminate all entertainment, and try to move from one extreme to the complete opposite overnight. Research from the University of Pennsylvania found that gradually limiting social media to around 30 minutes daily produces far more sustainable results than abrupt total removal. Your brain responds better to gradual recalibration than to sudden deprivation. Sudden extreme restriction typically triggers strong compensatory rebound behavior within just a few days. So start small and stay consistent. Delay checking your phone by 15 minutes after waking up each morning. Give your brain the chance to generate its own orientation before receiving external input. Watch one fewer session of short-form video content each day. Not none at all, just one fewer. Sit quietly without any entertainment for 5 to 10 minutes once each day. During this stage, boredom will feel genuinely uncomfortable. You will feel a strong pull to escape that discomfort as soon as it arises. That pull is not a problem requiring an immediate fix. It is the signal that recovery is beginning. Boredom is your attention system recalibrating its sensitivity baseline back toward something more sustainable. When you flood your brain with high-stimulation content constantly, it requires increasingly intense input to register anything as engaging or rewarding. Quieter, more demanding activities stop feeling worth doing. When you reduce that constant flood, your brain slowly restores its sensitivity to subtler rewards. The quiet satisfaction of completing a difficult task begins to feel real again. The more you tolerate boredom without escaping into stimulation, the more your natural threshold for focus and engagement rises. Discomfort here is the sign that the process is working correctly. The third stage covers days 15 through 21. This is where active and intentional rebuilding of your concentration begins. Your nervous system has been calming down through the previous 2 weeks. It is now ready to be trained in a new direction. Begin with focused sessions of 10 to 15 minutes. One single task. No phone within reach. No switching between tabs. No multitasking of any kind during these sessions. Studies consistently show that multitasking reduces cognitive productivity by up to 40% and significantly increases mental fatigue. What feels like productive efficiency is actually the brain paying a cognitive tax with every switch. Your goal during these sessions is not heroic intensity, it is consistency. Choosing one thing and staying with it even when your brain signals that it wants to go elsewhere is the training itself. There is a specific moment during each session that matters more than any other. It is the exact moment your brain signals discomfort and generates the urge to escape to something easier. That moment is your training opportunity. Every time you stay with the task just a little longer than your brain is asking you to, you directly strengthen your prefrontal cortex's control over impulse. This is how genuine mental discipline is built, not through motivational pressure. Through thousands of small moments across many days where you choose to remain present rather than escape, and slowly, something real begins to shift. Deep focus starts feeling less effortful. Silence becomes easier to inhabit. Your ability to stay on one thing without forcing every minute begins expanding naturally. The fourth and final stage runs from days 22 through 30. This is where everything you have built gets reinforced into a new default. You are not just building a habit here. You are consolidating a new default state for how your nervous system operates day to day. Each morning during this phase, set one specific focus intention for the day, something clear like, today I will complete each task before moving to the next one. A direct and simple statement primes your brain for intentional rather than reactive behavior throughout the hours ahead. It sets a direction before the pull of habit has a chance to take over. During the day, practice staying present just slightly longer than your first instinct wants you to. Not dramatically longer, just a few extra minutes past the point where resistance first appears. Each evening, take 2 to 3 minutes to reflect on how your attention moved through the day. Where did you sustain focus well? Where did you lose it? What triggered the switch when it happened? This is not about harsh self-analysis. It is about gently noticing patterns and consciously reinforcing the new ones you are building. Brief evening reflection directly strengthens the neural pathways being formed through daily repetition. There are several common mistakes that consistently derail people during this process. They are worth naming clearly so you can recognize them when they appear in your own experience. The first is expecting rapid results. If your brain has been conditioned toward distraction for years, rebuilding takes meaningful time. Impatience at day 5 is normal. Acting on that impatience is what destroys the process. The second is relying on motivation. Motivation is an emotional state that fluctuates daily based on sleep, mood, stress, and circumstances. Systems and repeated behavior outlast any feeling of inspiration by a wide margin. The third mistake is attempting to eliminate all stimulation at once. Abrupt extreme restriction almost always produces rebound behavior quickly. Gradual, consistent reduction is what produces lasting and sustainable change. The fourth mistake is inconsistency. Your brain does not change through occasional effort. It changes through behavior repeated daily over time. Small, consistent actions will always outperform intense, random ones. Neuroscience research on neuroplasticity makes this unambiguous. The brain strengthens the pathways it uses most frequently. Distraction is practiced. Focus is also practiced. Repetition determines which one becomes your automatic default. If you work through all four stages consistently, without abandoning the process when it feels slow or unremarkable, the changes that emerge are real and observable over time. You will feel mentally calmer throughout the day without needing to constantly seek stimulation to feel settled. You will switch tasks less impulsively and with more deliberate intention when you do move between them. You will tolerate boredom with significantly less discomfort than when you started. You will complete more work without needing to force yourself through every single minute of it. You will feel more genuinely present during conversations and during periods of focused work. Tasks that once felt slow or difficult to engage with will begin holding your attention more naturally. Reading will feel easier to sustain. Difficult thinking will feel less exhausting and more rewarding. Your mind will feel quieter throughout the day. Not because your life became simpler, because your brain stopped demanding constant stimulation every waking moment just to maintain a basic sense of comfort and normalcy. Here is the complete daily system from day 1 through day 30. It does not require dramatic changes or complicated routines. Notice your distraction impulses as they arise and label them without judgment. Reduce one source of overstimulation each week by a small but consistent amount. Practice focused attention in short daily sessions without multitasking. Reflect briefly each evening on how your attention moved through the day. Repeat every single day without waiting for motivation to show up first. The system works through action, not through readiness. That is the entire structure. No extreme protocols, no unrealistic promises, just consistent daily brain training grounded in how attention and neuroplasticity actually work. What makes this process different from most advice you will encounter is that it does not ask you to rely on motivation as a starting point. It asks you to reduce the conditions that make discipline feel necessary in the first place. That is a fundamentally different approach. When your brain is no longer flooded with constant stimulation, focus stops feeling like a battle you have to force your way through every day. It starts to feel like simply what you do. The resistance decreases not because you got tougher, but because the system is no longer actively working against you. That is the real outcome of 30 days of consistent practice, not perfection. A nervous system that has relearned how to operate without needing novelty every few seconds. Attention is not a fixed personality trait you either have or lack. It is a skill developed through practice exactly like any other skill worth building. The more you train it with patience, consistency, and realistic expectations about the timeline involved, the more your entire daily experience reflects the discipline you are quietly cultivating. Your focus shapes the quality of your thinking. Your thinking shapes the quality of your decisions. Your decisions, repeated across enough days, shape who you are becoming. That process is already happening whether you are directing it or not. The only real question is whether you are the one guiding it. Start today. Not when you feel ready or motivated or inspired. The work begins with a single decision to begin.